So I'm just here in Copenhagen in Denmark. And of course I am down by the river here, where if you Google Copenhagen, this is pretty much what you get. It's one of the most Danish looking and of course stereotypical parts of the city. There is so much more to see here, but if you're looking for that picture perfect postcard view, then it's definitely down here on the docks. I'm just about to go on a tour myself to go and see the Little Mermaid, which is the start of that whole story that then made it so famous with Disney. But it all starts here down by the docks in Copenhagen.
You have to imagine this area here, filled with drunken sailors and ladies of the night, bar brawls, muggings, killings, everything that you can imagine from a working harbour. It has taken place here over the years, I guarantee it.
This is Denmark's ultra-efficient waste-to-energy plant that is so advanced they actually run out of local trash and they have to import it from other countries to keep their electricity and heating going for thousands of homes. It's clean, renewable, and it reduces their landfill overall. So one of the most obvious things that you will see down here by the harbour in Copenhagen is the colourful buildings. Now, this has kind of two origins. There's an apocryphal story that you'll actually find in many of Europe's ports, and that's the idea that the sailors needed the houses to be colourfully painted so that they could identify which one was theirs when they came home drunk. They needed to know, well, they all look the same. I need to know that I'm in the red house, I'm in the orange house, I'm in the yellow house, and so on, because the sailors were coming back having a good time and didn't know where exactly they were. Now, on from this, the actual likely story is simply that this was the trend at the time that they were built and they were painted. It was just how it was across a lot of Europe and specifically Scandinavia, and Copenhagen has simply kept that trend and that look until this day, where many have not. So just here in the independent free town of Christiania. Now, many people will know this, of course, as a neighbourhood of Copenhagen, but for many it is something far, far more. On the 18th of May 1971, after the student movement of 1968 that looked to push back against many of the European governments, this former military barracks was taken over. And with it, one of the world's most well-known hippie communes was born. Something you should also probably check out if you are here in Copenhagen is the statue of priest Absalon. So Absalon is known as the founder of Copenhagen. He was a warrior priest and founded Copenhagen in 1167. Now this is debatable because there is evidence that Copenhagen in some form has existed even as far back as the Stone Age. Now obviously it's not a continuous city, but you can of course then debate whether 1167 with Absalon is actually its true founding. Now Absalon was a true warrior priest and was basically called upon to go and sort out marauders that were coming in during that time period, and kind of got gifted the idea as founder by the king at the time. So just on a night out now to a travellers or solo travellers meet at one of the other hostels. Just here with Jasmine, who I randomly met playing pool in one of the hostels. So you can always easily meet people to chat to, but we're going to literally go to an event to find other solo travellers and have a good time, hopefully. Now, if you're looking for somewhere to get a hot meal and to chill out, potentially coming here to what was previously the Church of St. Nicholas, a Lutheran church, and very well known in Copenhagen as the place to stop the fires. This was previously somewhere that effectively worked as Copenhagen's first fire station. Copenhagen, if you ever talk to a tour guide or anything like that, you will find out very quickly so many places in the city have burnt down. There have been 2 major citywide fires. The second one came 6 weeks after they fired the lookout for the St. Nicholas Church. Now, as I say, this is no longer a Lutheran church, no longer working as a fire station, but it still has the history of it. Now, funny enough, the church was also destroyed in that second fire, so this is its reincarnation, and it comes as a restaurant, library, and somewhere to come when it's windy and rainy days like it is today. And of course, something else we can't ignore when we're in Copenhagen is more things about Hans Christian Andersen. And there behind me, in that unassuming, very slim white building, is where Hans Christian Andersen actually spent quite a bit of his later years, his later career, with a wonderful view over the city. And in fact, that's Nyhavn 67. Further up on the other side, Nyhavn 20, is where he spent a few of his earlier years with his earlier works. Now, this is something that isn't actually signposted or having plaques on many of these buildings, so it is something you have to kind of come and find out, but it's a magnificent reminder of where so much of his inspiration will have come from, and where you're just within a hair's breadth of where so many of the world's most well-known fairy tales were thought of and written right here in Copenhagen. So as we think about one of the most famous Danes, Hans Christian Andersen, we have to then look at what he originally wanted to be. Of course, most of us know him as an author, one of the most prolific in history, certainly one of the most translated authors of all time. Not number 1, as some Danes and even some tour groups will tell you, but he's certainly in the top 10. However, this was not his original love. He started here in the National Theatre, where he was singing and acting. That's what he wanted to do. He wanted to be an actor, he wanted to sing. And then the theatre told him, maybe you should think more about writing. And for the rest of us, we are thankful that they made that suggestion, because of course now we are so blessed with the fairy tales that he has lent to us. On from that, and the reason potentially that he was even able to get to the National Theatre here was because just over the road at the Magasin du Nord, which is now a department store, Hans Christian Andersen actually used to live at the back of it. It does seem as he has lived in many parts of the city, but it is amazing to be able to find these little snippets of history and culture that you wouldn't necessarily know when you're here. It's a little bit of checking, a little bit of looking around, and you can find these nuggets and just think of the amazing things that were being put in pen to paper as Hans Christian Andersen looked from his home in the Magasin du Nord over to where he really and truly wanted to be.